you know,
Not
like
just
the windfall thing, you know, that somebody's trying to change that for social security or offset. They won't change that completely, but they'll change it some probably. That's a federal thing, so it can be really tough to get anything like that done. So I think you take 40% right now, the way it is, if you're gonna say, these will take all of it, but they changed it. I don't see how they can take all of it.
Okay, it looks like we have power to everything.
We do.
Everything you need to see there.
Everything looks like it's on.
Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and get started. Tonight is June 1st, Tuesday, June 1st. This is a regular meeting of town council in the town council municipal building, as well as by Zoom and town hall streams. First item is Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have a moment of silence. If we could all rise to the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting held on May 18th and the special meeting held on May 25th, which was an executive session. I'll look for a motion from the counselor.
Move we adopt the regular meeting minutes held on May 18th, 2021, and special meeting held on May 25th, 2021 as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion, counselors? Did you see anything in the minutes that need to be adjusted? Okay, not hearing any. All those in favor of adopting the minutes of the regular meeting as presented for May 18th and the special meeting held on May 25th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, that will pass. Next item is presentations, congratulations, introductions. Catherine, community and economic development activities and events.
Yes, very good. On presentations, congratulations, and introductions for community and economic development activities and events. I've noticed from our statistics that we have more and more people watching the town hall streams. So I'm going to go over the background of the sidewalk project very quickly. So we have a Main Street sidewalk project which fits in with the Maine DOT's project. So the Main Street sidewalk project, for people newly watching the live stream or attending this meeting, is a very important project for the town of Pittsfield. The intent of this project is to reconstruct the sidewalk on the north side of Main Street between Central Street and Somerset Avenue to achieve accessibility requirements, to increase safety of pedestrian traffic, and to improve aesthetics. So this is one small project in the downtown. There is another entire section of the Main Street sidewalk from the railroad tracks back to the back entrance of the industrial park that has fit in with the Maine DOT's project. And so that sidewalk is going to be more of a rural sidewalk which goes down past the library, past Maine Central Institute, down to the back entrance of the industrial park. The other project, which is being done by the town separately, but may fit in with the DOT project when they come through in terms of being built when the road is built by Maine DOT, is the downtown area, which is more complex. So the main components of this project are to replace the existing sidewalk concrete to improve accessibility, durability, and aesthetics for obvious reasons. Reset of existing granite curbing to provide a minimum 6-inch curb reveal. This improvement will prevent vehicles from encroaching onto the sidewalk, as well as flattening the sidewalk cross slope to meet ADA accessibility requirements. There will be improved pedestrian traffic safety measures, including new signage, ADA ramps, and shortened crosswalks. There will also be a sidewalk bump out at Rennie's that's been trimmed to allow for an additional parking space. The Maine DOT is running approximately 1 month and 1 week behind on the schedule. We will present it at the beginning of the year. The project is a large one, being rehabilitation of a section of Main Street and regular paving for the remainder of the roadway. The MDOT project, or Maine DOT project, starts at the Pittsfield-Detroit line and extends down to Nichols Street. The town sidewalk project goes a little bit further, going down to the back entrance of the industrial park. In the meantime, sections of the sewer main may also be rehabilitated. All kinds of projects all getting put together here, so this will be interesting. The project manager has our conceptual plan and we're awaiting comments. The Maine DOT has a traditional process in which the plans that are submitted travel from one office to another. So our official plan for the sidewalk was filed on time. Once Maine DOT has their conceptual plan ready, the town's is ready as a supplement. There will be an online presentation by Maine DOT that will be advertised to the public. I understand it will be approximately 2 weeks in length, in which people can go in and look over the plans and make comments. This is basically about the Main Street Road project that Maine DOT will be starting construction on next summer 2022. And when you look at the road, you can see why they need to start construction. However, the town is tagging along because we have a small part of this, which is our sidewalk. To address the project canopy grants that the town has, and we do not want to lose, we've got about $26,000 tied up in that. I did acquire a meeting with the Maine DOT that will take place next Monday, June 7th. It started out as a meeting with a landscape architect, and now it's a meeting with multiple Maine DOT staff members in charge of the roadway, right-of-way, utilities, etc. So the issue is, how do we plant these trees so that we don't lose the money for the trees in locations where Maine DOT and the town is not going to be disturbing the ground along Main Street? So this will be quite interesting. So we'll see how that meeting goes, and whether, if we can't plant the trees, Maine DOT could assist the town in getting an extension from the Department of Conservation and Agriculture, so we don't lose the monies. All the other grants for this project have been extended with the exception of the Community Development Block Grant for $250,000. We're still waiting for the ability to extend that. The Department of Economic Community Development has our package and has the letter of commitment from Maine DOT. We have a variety of grants for biking, pedestrian walkway benches, and other miscellaneous items that are the town streetscape, which are all set. We also applied for a Northern Border Regional Commission grant up to $245,000 to complement this project. So we could do a bit more, and we also could deal with construction costs, which have skyrocketed in a few years since we put our estimates together for this project. And so that, as I explained at the last meeting, they get filed in time despite technology issues with the federal government's website, which is interesting. So that is filed, and we've been advised there'll be answer in August of 2021. And if we did get some of the funding, that would fit right in with the construction period next year. The money should be here at the right period of time. The town has a variety of other smaller grant opportunities that are separate from Main Street and community development. We have $10,000 toward a backup pump for the Detroit pump station and $20,000 toward a capacity study for water. And then there are some other grants that we have too that we're working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Public hearings, old business. First order here is ordinance 21-03.
Ordinance 21-03, public hearing, that the town council hereby ordains that chapter 9 sewer use be rescinded and replaced with the new chapter 9 sewer use.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Move we adopt ordinance 21-03.
We don't do that yet, do we?
No.
Right?
We need a motion to open the hearing for discussion.
I move we open the public hearing for ordinance 21-03.
Second.
Okay, this is a public hearing. We have looked at this ordinance numerous times. Annalise is here also to answer any additional questions. And if there's anyone on the council that has questions at this point, and then we'll go to the public.
I'd rather hear from the public first and then see if that's possible. Although I don't know how many people are actually.
We have two. Alright, councilors, if you don't have any other questions, we'll open it up to the public. We have two people that are joining us on Zoom tonight, and then Colonel Wiley's here. Colonel, did you have anything to speak to the sewer ordinance or questions for this?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Anybody on Zoom have any questions regarding the sewer ordinance?
No, thank you.
Okay. I guess that's it. Annalise, do you have anything that you want to add to the information that we already have before us, or?
Well, I'm not really sure what else I can say. We've been talking about this for probably 4 months now, or maybe a little bit longer, and I think you guys put a lot of thought into the comments, and I think it's a decent ordinance, and it's not overcomplicated. I think it's pretty easy to understand, and I think it's fair to the public, and I really don't have anything specifically to add.
Okay. Councilors, if you do not have any more comments, we'll close the public hearing. Not hearing any, we'll close the public hearing and move for the vote. Pete, do you want to make your
Now, I'm
you adopt it
going to
now?
adopt the ordinance 21-03.
I'm sorry, who's seconding?
Second.
Second, Tim. Okay. All those in favor of adopting ordinance 21-03 as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that will pass. Order 2108.
Order 21-08, public hearing. Order that the town council adopt the quarterly and monthly rates for the Pittsfield Water Works for needed customers, municipal fire protection, and private fire protection effective August 1st, 2021.
We'll look for a motion to open the hearing, councilors.
Will we open order 21-08 to public hearing?
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Any councilors have items or questions about this order? This is our water rate change. And
I noticed, Heather, that we have an effective date now of 8/1. I'm just curious, is that in the middle of a quarterly billing cycle?
yeah, it would be if it's.
Yeah, it would have to be because we're billing, every single month we're doing billing. So whenever we start, we'll be in the middle of a period. So what we do is we prorate it with the old rate for the number of months that are involved, and then for the second part, for the newer rate, the higher rate, would be prorated for the months that are for that period of time.
Will those rates be listed out separately on the bill so that it's itemized for people to see that?
We'll have a note on there like we did in 2009 that explained out what was going on. And if it's too complicated to put it on the bill, we'll also put a piece of paper in, like a half page that explains out what went on, just to make it clear.
Right, but will you have a line that says this 1 month was at the old rate and that's how much, and then these 2 months are at, or if it's 2 months at the old and 1 month? I don't know where 8/1 falls in the quarterly billing cycle.
All right, so we have to have one rate that comes out, so we have to merge the two rates together for the period of time, which is why we start at the beginning of the month. But we can certainly write in each of the bills, which will be different. You know, 1 month at the old rate, 2 at the new rate, and then at the next billing would be 2 at the new rate, 1 at the old rate, and some will be all at the old rate, and some will be all at the new rate. So we can put a notice in each of the billings, but we can't break it down on the bill because the software doesn't do that. But we can explain it out
We
so
can
people
explain
will
it so I
know.
understand it.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of like specifically for commercial. Because I know that the commercial is increasing quite a lot more. I have commercial property, and we use that as part of our taxes and stuff like that, but we keep very close track of that to know if our tenant in that commercial property has caused an increase. And so being able to see the differences, I know from my standpoint, would make it really helpful.
The software won't allow us to put two figures there. We can call the TRIO program and check, but last time we had to prorate it ourselves, but we can prorate it in the office for somebody if they wanted to know that information. And I think we did that last time too for several companies and for a citizen.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
Any other questions, council? Catherine, can you just clarify, this is more of a general question. When the bills go out, are they on a rolling basis? Like
Yes.
sections go out, so that's why some people might see a 1 month portion
Correct.
and other people might see a 2 month portion?
Yes.
Okay.
We're always billing. We've talked about perhaps trying to bill more in certain months and then not bill in the other months, and that's something that we'll look at a little bit more.
Okay.
But right now it is, as you said, rolling.
So everybody has a different quarter then?
Correct.
So there it is.
And this, we had also talked about this too, that is it the fire, which one wasn't starting until January? Was that the fire protection?
The municipal fire protection, because we're not budgeted for it, and Annalise can explain there is a formula which we don't like, but that is the formula we must use, which increases the fire protection account, which is a revenue and an expenditure, which zeroes out at the end of the year, but we have to budget for it, and so we've asked the PUC if we can have that start in January.
And if we start it in January, then we have a full year of the expenditures and the revenues to balance
Correct.
out versus
Yes.
this wonky individual time of the last 4 months of the year.
Yes.
Okay. Did I get that right?
Pretty much, okay.
But we still have to back pay that amount.
You have to,
correct?
right, and I have a presentation that can explain everything when it's time to do it, and I was gonna mention that, yep.
Why don't we do that now since we're talking
Okay.
about it?
That's fine, and we'll share our screen so people, the public can see it. Okay, so you all can hear me pretty good, even with this muffler on? So I'm Annalise Hafford, and we've been assisting the town with the operations of the water and sewer. And I apologize, I'm behind you, sir, but this was kind of a weird setup here with the screen in the front, so. But anyway, so we've been assisting the town as of late, actually even more with the water and sewer. So we did prepare this rate increase and also prepared the rate increase in 2009, which was quite some time ago. So just for people to know, the town has really tried hard to keep the rates flat, but there comes a time when a rate increase is needed. Probably towns tend to be too kind and wait to do those things because nobody likes to have a rate increase. So this is a required public hearing. PUC does require this, and it was required on a certain date, and tonight's the night. So I'll go through slowly, and hopefully it's clear to you. I do have handouts at the front of the room if you wanted one, but so basically the reason for this rate increase is, like I said, the last one was in 2009. Over 12 years ago, costs have gone up, operation and maintenance costs have gone up, wages of employees have gone up, material costs, especially lately, have gone up. And also the water department, really a properly run water department, needs to be able to fund depreciation, which basically is funds set aside for future improvements, and also, like I said, to support ongoing operation and maintenance. A properly run water system, there's many repairs that need to be done. These are all very expensive. And takes a lot of time, and sometimes contractors will come in and help do things. So there's also projects that the town wants to complete. Catherine mentioned a couple grants. We really can't start on those projects without a rate increase. The well rehabilitation study is actually a study to see if we can locate another well at the existing well field. That can't be started because the town has a $20,000 match to the $20,000 grant to fund the generator. That really can't be started without sufficient revenue. There's a lot of important projects that need to be done here. We're spending a lot of time doing leak repairs lately. You may have noticed that in the last couple months. We do 1 week of leak detection, the next week of repairing what we find. We've actually decreased leakage by about 130,000 gallons a day. We're very successful, so far on doing this, but that costs money. It's not free to do that work. We've actually been allowing labor to come over and help out because right now we have one staff guy. So there's a lot of things that need to be done, and actually the town is really growing. There's a lot of things, commercial businesses or industrial businesses that use water. And that's a concern to me as a utility manager. We need to be able to keep up with this fantastic growth, and that's part of the other reasons why we need this rate increase. So basically, I'm just going to go over the process of the rate increase so people understand how it works. We have to do an initial filing to the PUC, and that was done. We were required to put a legal notice in the newspaper and send a
This meeting is being recorded.
and send a notice to each one of our customers. So the town did that. So basically tonight is to take in comments from the public or from the counselors, and then for me to put that in writing to the PUC. They need to know what I've been asked at this meeting, and I'm required to respond in writing to PUC what those questions were. And I'll also respond tonight. I may not always know every single question I get asked, but I know most regarding this issue. And we'll have to do a final rate filing within 10 to 30 days after this meeting. So we'll be required to submit that in that timeline. They don't want it too soon, and they don't want it too late. They have all these deadlines that are hard to keep track of. And so the proposed effective date is August 1st, 2021. We originally wanted it earlier than that, just the timing of everything, and just schedules and getting things done. That's kind of where we're at, is August 1st. For the proposed effective date, which we kind of talked about a little bit already. So there is a proposed design method in a rate increase. So basically we actually create a model in the computer of what you're billing right now, and you have a lot of customers, so it takes quite a bit of time to understand, is the model equal what you're billing now? So first we created a model to make sure that our predictions would be accurate. So then we did different percentages. You guys had approved a budget prior to that time, for the town water department, and that budget can't be operated under in the current rates. So we used the current budget that we did have part of, voicing our opinion on, working with the town staff, and basically we haven't been able to operate under that budget. So that was our goal, is to raise rates to meet the budget and also to be able to do some capital improvements. So that's kind of in essence. So our current rates right now, the way they are currently, can only be predicted to raise just a little over $400,000. And that was, and actually the model predicted pretty much exactly what it should have. So it's a good model, the basis of the predictions. And the approved water department budget was $617,000, which is a lot bigger number than the 411. And there is nothing lavish in that budget. This is a fairly large water system. I run other water systems that their budgets are higher, and some are lower, depends on the size, but very comparable to this new level. The original budget, the older budget, was just not enough for 2021. And so the rates need to be raised to bring about $206,000 more into the water department, which obviously is a fairly large number. So basically I kept the design of the rates the same, so you have a certain way you set it up many years ago. It causes confusion when you change the design methodology, so I kept it the same. So basically the larger customers get a break on big usage. And the rates, because you have such a big customer base, the number itself isn't that bad. It just sounds like a pretty large percentage. So we just raised everything the same percentage, whether you're a 5/8 meter residential or a 5/8 meter commercial, or whatever, we went the same percentage no matter what kind of meter you had, it just changed when you went up in size, as it always did. So the same percent increase went for every single customer. And then on the next slide, it shows the revenue. You can see on the slide the difference in revenue. Most of the revenue, additional revenue, is coming from the residential customers. So I know there's concerns for commercial and all of that, but the biggest amount of increase in revenue is from the residential side. The same percent increase, but there's just more residential customers. And on the public fire protection is the next area where is the largest increase in revenue. Because of the fact, the way the formula works, which I'll explain in a minute, and where that puts you on the fire protection curve. It requires the town to contribute the next largest amount of added revenue. So that would be kind of a breakdown of where that is. And when you look on the actual percent increase, every customer themselves is getting the same percent increase, but because you have more industrial now than you did when I used your model year, the percentages are off. So if one of your questions is why is the industrial 109% and the commercial and the residential 48%, it's because of the fact that there's more commercial users now, industrial users now than when we did the initial rate case back in 2009. So everything's about the same, and also on private fire protection, there's an added sprinkler line, and that's why that's at 50%. So I just wanted to explain why some of the percentages aren't the same. And then there's additional revenue that's not included in this. If you look at all the numbers like PUC, you'll notice that. And I just mentioned there is some other income, like rental income that the town gets from a rental property near the water department. Just different charges that are allowed in the terms and conditions. There's things we can charge for. Those are other income that comes in to add revenue. So I just want to go over the rates. I know this is really interesting to all of you, but I'm required to go over these items. So for the typical 5/8 meter, the amount of the proposed rate increase is an additional $19.30 per quarter. And that's the same whether you're residential, governmental, commercial, or industrial. It goes by meter size. And that's an increase from $40.20 a quarter to $59.50. At the minimum charge, I realize people use over the minimum, but you can't compare every single scenario. And the annual rates for the 5/8 meter would be $160.80 to $238. So, it is a 48% increase, but that really is what it's going to take to be able to raise sufficient revenue to run the water department in a satisfactory manner. And on the next slide, it gives you the rates for all different sizes of meters. So when you look at page 7, it does show you that you have approximately 1125 residential 5/8 meters, and your total meters are around 1213. So most of your revenue, like I mentioned, is the residential customer. There are other larger meters in the system that have to pay far more than the numbers that I just stated, but they're all on this table so that you can see if you have a 3/4 inch meter, there's only 10 of them in the system. A 1 inch, 31 meters, 1.5 inch, there's 16, 2 inch, 27, 3 and 4, much smaller amounts of meters. So they do impact customers. It'll be the same percentage increase, but a lot larger number, as it always has been. So basically just wanted to show you the comparison of all the different meters, and you can see the increase there, and this would be the 48% increase. And then on the fire protection charges, I just want to go over this. This is something that every single meeting I go to, even when I'm not doing a rate increase, I got asked this on another town where their rate increase happened in 2005, and I didn't do it, and people are very upset about it. I understand, because they don't feel like the hydrants should have to be paid by the taxpayers, but this is just how it works. I can't make it different. I can't change it. It's just the way it is. So in Chapter 69 of the Public Utility Commission rules, there's a procedure for how to do this. It uses the town's population and a ratio of the computed peak flow for consumption and the required fire flow. And this ratio is just a mathematical formula, and you plot it on the fire protection curve. And it's an old curve that we keep using, but it was done way back in the rules. And it kind of ends up different for different size systems. In your case, you end up computing to 39% in the curve, but the PUC does not allow a water system to charge more than 30% of their predicted gross revenue for fire protection. So we have to reduce the 39% down to 30%. But however, because the revenue's higher, the water usage is different how it was before, that causes the increase from the 115,000 per year to around 184,000 a year. And basically what the PUC has agreed to do is to delay. The town basically will have a payment arrangement with the water system where they would not pay until next year, but then they will have to reimburse. It doesn't have to be done right away. It can be done as a payment, like any other payment plan, back to the water department as the town has sufficient revenue to pay that money back, because we can't allow customers, residential customers, to pick up the slack for the town. The PUC has agreed to do this, and this was the least cumbersome way to handle it. The only other way would be a waiver, and that's extremely complicated and not something that would get agreed to very easily here, because there really isn't, anything other than the budget keeping it from happening. So the fire protection charges always get a lot of questions. It has nothing to do with how many hydrants you have. A lot of people think it has to do with how many hydrants, and so they say, well, if you have 5 hydrants that don't work, you should be deducting that from the fire protection charge. That's not how it works. It just goes by this formula. And then fire protection charges are very different. Those are private sprinkler lines. Those were just increased 48% as just the same as everything else. The reason I said the percentage is higher is because there's an additional sprinkler line to one of the new industrial facilities. So that increases the percentage of revenue higher than 48% that was coming in from that. And then I just wanted to go over some of the important projects that the water department really needs to get working on. There are 2 water tanks in the system. They need to be inspected. They need to be rehabilitated and painted. The town's done very well and does have some funds set aside to do this, but we need to inspect them first. But that's operation and maintenance budget. That probably is somewhere around $10,000. It's just not money we have to spend right now until we can get some rates. You need to inspect before you can get a price on painting. You don't want to get a price just assuming you know what the inside looks, because there's no way to know without getting them inspected. We do have hydrant repairs that we're very well aware of. There are 6 on Main Street that most of them still work. A couple of them, it's a little dangerous to use them. They do need to be fixed. We're fully aware of it, but it's going to cost some money. What we would like to do is to replace them one by one or all at once, but that's just going to take time. And so that's one of our projects we'd like to do. And we'd like to get some more valves that in the system, a few more isolation valves, so we call them insertion valves, so that we can do it and keep the town live. There are some major distribution improvements. We're on our 3rd repair on Honeywell Avenue. That is the galvanized line, and we're chasing it down the road. So we've correlated again the 3rd location. Right now we think that might be the last for now, but that's just an example. Galvanized pipes are old. They were probably not a good idea in the first place, and I know the town has tried before to get grant funds to do this and was not able to attract a decent grant at that time. But that's one of the, an example of a distribution pipe that really should be replaced in the future. We are trying to get the leaks because we're very aware that leaks aren't a good excuse for not keeping up with water, so we're working hard on that right now. Well site improvements, both of the wells are close to each other, so that if you do any work on one, you have to take them both offline. That is not a really good system, especially when you have fairly large manufacturing here in Pittsfield, because we can't run water during the rehabilitation of those wells. That's supposed to be done in the next couple of weeks. It was supposed to be done in April, but everybody's backed up. I don't understand what is going on with everything. You get contractors to do things, but We have gotten approval from council to do the rehabilitation, and if he doesn't do it soon, maybe we have to put him off to the fall, because I'm not gonna do it during the peak of the summer. That would not be prudent. And we would like to do the well study to determine if we could install a third well away from the two that are there now, but close proximity to the treatment site. Once we understand that, we could try to get grants to be able to pay for it. But until we understand that, we can't really do anything with it. So that's the $20,000 grant that Catherine mentioned, the hydrogeological study that we would do to try to see if we could site a third well. And then there's just treatment system improvements that we would like to make, and we think it's valuable to have improved operations oversight and staffing. We feel that that's something that the town has potential. I've been really excited with how things have been going lately. I think it's things have been going pretty well, so we'd like to keep that up. And on the next slide, you can see I just did you a comparison. I tried to get systems that were about the same size. It's rather difficult. They're all over the place. The last two on the overhead, I did put Newport and Clinton there because they're kind of nearby. And I will mention Calais hasn't had a rate increase since 2005. So they're due for a rate increase. So they're in the same boat kind of as Pittsfield. They don't like doing them, but they're getting ready to do one. So their number will be closer to yours. But you can see that you're still, on average, lower than most people. I know that when you say a 48% increase, it sounds pretty scary, but the number's so low that it doesn't end up being a terrible number. I do understand there's people with fixed income and all of that, and I'm not trying to make that small, but this is not a frivolous increase. And I will assure you, the PUC's responsibility is to the public, and they will evaluate it and make sure that it's fair to the public and that all the numbers match up. So I feel confident that this is basically where we need to be. I mean, everybody approved the budget to go towards that goal, but the rates didn't support the budget. So I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has.
So Annalise, the rate comparison chart is very good because on the sewer system, there's a study that's done by the Maine Rural Water. So we always have that for the sewer system, but we don't have it for the water system. So this is quite interesting. Neighboring towns are higher.
Right, and I think some of that too is some of the neighboring towns, like Clinton's really small. They only have 408 customers. And that it's kind of a little difficult. I actually have a typo. Madawaska does not have 15,000 customers.
I was like, there's no way Madawaska's that big.
I just noticed it. Too bad I didn't notice it before now, but whatever. Anyway, I tried to find towns that were similar in size. I think you guys do pretty well and still will do well. I think that with the way this is set up, I think we can do well for a while. And still manage the operations prudently, not go crazy here, but there are things that need to be done. And it's obvious when you have leaks like we have right now, that stuff needs to be paid attention to, and we need to do the right thing. But yes, I still think the rates will be very fair here. And I know that's a goal for the commercial businesses and having people want to do business in Pittsfield.
When you're talking about the distribution system improvements, do you have a priority list of, other than Honeywell, which we know is an issue?
We really need to work on an overall kind of a plan to do that. That is something that we'll be doing, for sure.
I'm thinking about road repair always.
Right, and that's what actually Catherine
road repair without
been,
water lines.
she's actually been doing that with the project that was recently placed out to bid. It was kind of a priority of roads, and then in that priority of roads, it included sewer, drainage, and water work.
Yeah.
So that is one priority, but I think the water system as a whole needs to do its own priority list. And frankly, just getting on board with doing this, some of the, it's been a little challenging to say the least, in dealing with COVID and everything else. We don't have, we don't have like what I would call the water system comprehensive master plan. And that's something that we'll work towards in time. We've talked about it and we know we need to come up with it. We have some priorities. but not like line by line, except I do know Honeywell and, that's without a question.
Honeywell's an option.
Some things, right, some things can be fixed, even if they're old, but other things can't be.
Any other questions for Annalise, counselors?
I have a question, more or less, just to educate me. The town wells down there, is there ways is it always available, or is there times that like people's wells start to slow down and dry up? Are those wells just gonna go forever, or?
Well, they do become a little impacted during drought, but not like what you see in a regular well.
Right.
But what really gets them is fines. There's a lot of fines within the aquifer where they're located, and they plug up. So that's what I was talking about, the rehabilitation.
Right.
What we need to do is get the fines cleared out of the screen. The well screen that sits at the bottom of the well plugs up with those fines, and the pump can't pull in enough water. So it slows down, and and that's the nature of this well system, has to be done, and that's another reason why the rates aren't sufficient. That costs, I think the quote was $20,000 or $22,000. That's a lot of money to come out of the budget. I mean, that's $400,000, which a lot of that is, spread all over the place. But so that's one issue we have with the wells.
Okay, so you do notice it by the pressure is dropping.
The amount of water we can pump to keep we have levels for the wells, and when our pumps keep slowing down. So that's when we know we have to rehabilitate. So the desire was to do it in April, but there really was only one vendor who could actually do it. We had another person bid on it, but they wanted to do 2 trips, which really wasn't what we wanted. And their price was higher anyway, so it was a moot point. But there isn't people that do that kind of work that have the qualifications and big enough equipment to pull those wells, that many, in the state of Maine. So it's expensive. If we had a 3rd well, then we could just take them offline and do it more regularly. This is just it's like an all-nighter, because you don't want to run out of water.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. Anybody on Zoom have any other questions before we move to vote here? Not seeing any. Bernard, did you have anything?
Yes, ma'am. I guess I'm a little confused why we wait till we need such a large increase. We went through this 10, 11, 12 years ago, and at that point in history, I thought it was kind of talked about and pretty much agreed on that we wouldn't do this again. We're right back there. That's a pretty rugged increase. Even though we're still one of the lowest in the state, there's still a big increase, especially on older people who are on Social Security. Why can't we do this every 3 to 5 years and keep it up to date?
I guess if I have to respond, I don't think there's any reason why we can't do it more often from this point on. But it's a lot of work, and I think the water department was able to get by for quite some time doing what it did, and now it's become readily apparent that we need to do things a little different. I don't know if anybody else wants to, Catherine, if you want to add to that, but I mean, we could do it every 5 years.
We could set a goal of looking at whether a rate increase is required every X period of time.
Exactly, not a set amount.
But
Yeah.
every time it's brought up, of course, people aren't really interested in it, so it doesn't get done and the town gets by. But we've had a lot of development lately, so we may need to schedule it, basically.
It's very common, unfortunately. You can imagine that this is not, and you didn't really have our services to do this every single year too much. We're more involved now, so we can help manage it. It's not easy to put all this together. Yeah.
I would say we definitely don't have the capacity to do this type of work within the town, that we would need professional services in order to have these programs go forward. And I think that right now we're on a good path as far as having a clear sight of what needs to be done and what we need to do to reach those goals. So I think, Bernard, you're right, it is way overdue. It should have been done before now. But going forward, we actually have access to the skilled labor to be able to do that, and the services of Oliver to be able to help us with this, and that we can get it on a regular schedule. And I think they're right, because of the growth in town and additional growth that's coming, we're gonna have to do this more often, just to be able to keep up with the extra work that's gonna need to be done.
Yeah, the 109% increase on industrial does make us very industrial friendly, business friendly.
Yeah, and just to make sure you heard me on that, that's because most of that, it's really a 48% increase per each user. But there's more industrial customers with the new rates than there were during the base year. So I have to do a base year in the model, and then the new customers have to be estimated in the proposed rates to make sure we don't overdo the rates, even though I know they seem overdone. But that's why that 109% is because there's more industrial users.
So in other words, they're not getting a 109% increase. That 109% is how much of the total that they're paying.
It's the revenue. 109% more of the rates is going to be from the industrial revenue, but each person is getting 48% if you were to look at their individual bills. There's just more of them.
I'm old and slow, sometimes it takes me a minute to get out.
That's okay, not a problem. It's some of this new technique, you probably can't even understand what I'm saying with the face mask on.
Well, I understood it better the second time you said it too. So
Okay.
you're not the only one for that.
It's like teachers say things twice to reinforce I'm not a teacher, so.
Exactly. Well, tonight you are our water rate teacher, and you did a great job explaining it. Does anybody have any other questions for Annalise? Or is there any other things that you're required to tell us during the hearing?
No, basically what I'll do is we'll comment to refile this to the PUC, make a couple minor corrections to the filing that I've noticed when I've gone through. I'll provide the PUC with a copy of the presentation and do minutes from the meeting, and then we will refile sometime after 10 days. I'm not going to wait to the end of it in case something happens and I don't do it on time. So I'm going to do it sometime after the 10 days. So really that's all that I'm required to say. The notice was really the requirement. Tonight's more just me trying to make sure I communicate everything.
Yeah. Will you be notifying us once you submit that to the PUC?
I will copy Catherine.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Catherine, you'll let us know when that goes through?
Certainly.
Thank you.
I actually wrote it in my calendar, the earliest date and the end date. Don't want to forget.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, we will close the hearing and vote on order 21-08. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, that will pass. Thank you, Annalise and staff, for all of your work and everything that you've done on this project. For both of these, the sewer and the water changes that we've done. It's been a lot of work. We've seen a lot of you recently, and we really appreciate you taking the time to do it. Okay, we're going to move on to reports. Council committees, finance, ordinance, and recycling. I don't think any of us have had any meetings since our last meeting.
You have not.
So we do have a recycling meeting coming up. Is it next Wednesday?
Yes, it's I believe it's I don't have my calendar in front of me. It's the 16th.
The 16th.
At I believe it's 5:30.
Okay.
And like I said, for those who wasn't here, I did contact a couple of times with MCI. I have not gotten a response from them. I talked to Donnie about and again, I know I said this once before, I talked to Donnie about the reuse center, and his tentative goal would be ideally to get it going somewhere around the third week of July. That's so that we wouldn't, providing everything stays the same, so we wouldn't have to disinfect everything coming in and all that stuff. Of course, what the other problem is the woman that ran that for us passed away, and we're going to have to try and, get some more volunteers to get down and do that. But that is something that we're working on, and going forward, I'll keep you updated as to where we're at and how that's going to go, because that's an important part of it. So I will let the council know as soon as I know.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
And finance committee, do we have a due date already set aside for our next meeting?
We had scheduled it, but we were scheduling it for the second Tuesday of every month, but that's election. So I don't know what it was scheduled for in June. I can't seem to find it on my calendar, Catherine. Do you know what we scheduled that for?
All right, it originally was the 8th.
Okay, so it was the 8th. I removed it for the election. So do we have a new date? Because we didn't meet last month.
I think we should figure out what our schedule is going to be and which departments we want to have come in.
I'd still like to hear from, I know that we can't hear from a public works director, but I'd like to see that budget, which is what we had planned on doing for.
Yeah, I'll need a month. I can create a capital improvement plan for Public Works.
What was the following one, Amanda? It was Public Works and then.
That was it.
Oh, that was it.
So we needed to add on like the library and some of the other departments.
Do we want to do some of the smaller apartments?
We could do the smaller ones next, in June. Because I know the library, she keeps her stuff very nicely organized.
There's not a lot of fluctuation in that budget
No.
from year to year either.
So yes, at the time we put our schedule together, there was not an election on June 8th.
Do we
Okay.
want to look at the 22nd as a finance committee meeting instead of an ordinance committee meeting then?
At this time, you do not have other items coming in. I think we spent enough time on sewer and water since last year.
Never.
Yes. So the other items that we had were all planning issues, and the planning board at this point has the most site plan reviews ever in the last 20 years. So they'll be working on that and have extra meetings during the month. So I would not anticipate anything from the planning board for a while. And I did speak with the planning board, and they agreed that Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation could help them with some proposed language on some of those topics.
Okay. So
We could
I
do-
would feel comfortable passing over the ordinance committee meeting and then sticking a finance committee meeting in there on the 22nd.
I think the other thing we should discuss on the 22nd too, Catherine, just as another thought, because July is unbelievably next month. And we should be setting our schedule for the budget for the rest of the year.
Okay, we actually have that, so we can look it over. I did everything at once.
Fantastic,
Yeah,
I
they
love
work
that. Then
really
we can
good.
look that over on the 22nd. We'll do that at 6:30 on the
If
22nd.
that works for everyone, 6:30 is good.
So you want to do library and then Catherine, does that give you want to do public works in July?
July, I'll be fine in July.
What else, what other departments do we have that are the smaller ones, like the library? I mean, we have the theater still, unfortunately, but they're not gonna change.
We just have all of the smaller departments, cemetery. Of course, we've got larger ones, water and sewer, but I think we should wait a little bit on that.
Yeah, we're
Because
good.
I'll be doing that too.
Does it make sense to do a review ahead of time on these smaller ones if we know we're not anticipating huge changes in them? Like cemetery pretty much stays the same or relatively the same aside from like the equipment that they purchase. Like, is it like doing something twice when we know it's not gonna change?
For me,
too much?
it's more trying to find out the idea of a 5-year type planning situation where what do they have now that, like for the cemetery, now that we've purchased his truck, which was a big deal, that needed to happen. What other things does he see coming down the line that might need to happen? The library had to do painting. Are there other things coming down the line that weren't in the original 5-year or 10-year things that we could be looking at? I really want to make sure that we have a good plan.
I mean, we can review that plan next month.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
just go over that, because that was out of date before the year
Go over
started.
the CIP plan then?
What's that?
Go over the CIP plan?
Yeah,
The capital plan?
Yeah.
Like the current one. And then-
All right, so we can go over the current one. We have water and sewer, not totally comprehensive. Well, sewer is pretty comprehensive, but water is not, because we didn't have a study done. And we have the highway in general. So we can go over the current plan. Yep, that's fine.
It's
And
gonna
it
take a
has
few
its-
times anyway.
It has its history,
It's
yeah.
pretty dated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So for that-
well, the history's in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
for
the-
that,
then-
we'll just review the CIP then, like an overarching review of the
Okay,
CIP.
we can do the CIP, but not, new specifics. You'll be doing the CIP that you have in here,
Right.
which has its history, and then you have your new project. So the part you talk about that's outdated is the part that's done, but we left it in there so people would know what was going on, like new counselors came in and everything.
What I really would like to see is not just the current CIP though, it's what else that isn't on that these departments see, like the police department and the fire department and that communications talk that we had. I thought that was really beneficial, because there were things that hadn't been thought of, because there wasn't a true discussion. It was a list that people put together, and I like those discussions so that maybe something will come up that we didn't even think of for the capital improvement, and that's where I'm hoping for more of a discussion than a presentation.
Well, I'm sure that councilors can all discuss, and anybody else that comes can all discuss on the projects, and it will bring up other topics. So for the highway CIP that, Steve, was going to put together, I will put that together, but it will be done, in July.
Also, I guess that puts me, July, our meeting was scheduled for, is that the 13th, Catherine?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is the finance committee at 6:30?
Yes.
So no meeting on the 8th, just one on the 22nd, and then in July 13th is another
The
finance.
regular one, yes. The only thing that's happened is we have an election in the midst of everything.
And do you anticipate we're gonna have an ordinance committee meeting in July on the 27th?
With all of the site plan review applications going, I doubt it.
Probably not, okay. Okay, are you all set then, Amanda, on finance?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Like I said, ordinance doesn't have anything. Ordinance and committee updates by town councilors and manager. Catherine, do you have any other board updates?
Oh, no, I don't. The Parks and Recreation Committee meeting that was scheduled was canceled as several games got scheduled during the meeting. And they all needed to be there.
Okay. The only thing that I have is, the Pittsfield Summer Concert Series, and this technically isn't like a board meeting, but we've discussed, we've traditionally discussed the concert series at this time, so I'm gonna do it again. They have this is their 6th year, they have the schedule out, it's been listed on I believe on Facebook, it's the Hawthorne Park Concert Series is the name of the group on there. And then Heart of Pittsfield has also shared it. The first concert is the Allison Ames Band on July 1st, and that kicks everything off for the summer. And then it's every Thursday right through September 2nd. And it's a good variety of bands. Like I said, the schedule's online. It'll make its way onto the website soon, hopefully. And then we'll have a full listing there. And Barb, DeNaro, Hanson, and Jan Lux have been spearheading that project, and they've been doing it for 6 years now. So they've got it down pat, and they've got quite the lineup for us this year. All right, and then we'll go on to town manager report.
Yes, for the town manager's report, it is the shortest one yet in quite some time, because we had very complex subjects on the agenda this evening. So very quickly, number 1, planning board meetings. The planning board will hold a special planning board meeting by video conferencing on Zoom on Wednesday evening, 6/2, at 7:00 p.m. There's one subject on the agenda, which is the site plan review application for a new hangar improvement project by Northeast Skywagon LLC at the airport, and that is specifically through a temporary assignment from Curtis and to Northeast Skywagon to build the hangar. Other projects coming up at the Monday, June 14th meeting, which is the regularly scheduled planning meeting, or a later date. will be hopefully the conclusion of the shooting range project off Main Street, headed toward Burnham. We have the HEP Energy Solar Array, and that's right here in the middle of town. Fenway Park Boat Launch, which is a project site plan review put together by Bill Cunningham, who did an excellent job, one of the best that I've seen. An extension for the Pittsfield Solar project off Main Street across from the Industrial Park back entrance, and the Town of Pittsfield Airport Hangar site plan project. There's a few more coming along, but they're not scheduled as of yet, so I'll wait for them to get their plans in. Number 2, the DEP Site Location and Development Act, Natural Resources Protection Act, minor revision. The town has about 14 or 15 different amendments to our original industrial park permit from DEP, and so to address some of the items that needed to be done to allow Chimbrow Corporation to be able to cut some trees on one of the properties, there was a mitigation plan to allow that approved by the town council, so there's a modification to the compensation plan to allow for the clearing of trees, so that there wouldn't be shade or have trees fall on the solar project, because the trees were leaning over toward the property that Chimbrow had purchased for their Somerset solar project, so that all got cut out. And to compensate for that, additional land in the wetlands to be preserved, but that was land that likely couldn't be built on anyway. And then the sewer easement along the property line between 2 industrial park lots has been removed to allow for the expansion of a manufacturing facility up in the industrial park. Number 3, public works activities. Last week was busy with the patching of the town roads, placement of town flags for Memorial Day weekend. Lots and lots of flags, they look really nice. Taking the pool cover off, pumping down the pool, placement of chemicals at the swimming pool. The employees went to the local roads work zone traffic control so they could get certified again on 2 mornings. A grave was dug and assistance was provided for the excavation to fix a water leak. This week has crosswalk painting, catch basin cleanouts, patching, and other projects. So we wondered what was going on with the crosswalks, and I have been advised that there is a supply issue with traffic paint, just like so many other items. Maine DOT is out of traffic paint, as well as other locations and vendors. So we have been calling around, looking to add to our supply. Luckily, we do have some. So there is enough paint to do all of the crosswalks, it's estimated. They did calculations for Somerset Avenue, Main Street, North Main Street crosswalks. So these are all the large areas, the ones that definitely you need your crosswalks on. And so we will continue to call around looking for more paint, which hopefully will be available. Who would think you had there's actually articles on the internet about the shortage nationwide on traffic paint. So that was interesting. Number 4, FEMA mass vaccination unit. There was to be a FEMA mobile vaccination clinic that just popped right up, and Bernard started working on that to get some money for it from FEMA. And so that was for Pittsfield, for the surrounding towns, being coordinated with Chimbrow, and was to be in the Chimbrow parking lot in June. So even before we got to advertise it, FEMA canceled it and advised Somerset County Emergency Management that they would go down to an area where there was more population in southern Maine. So it got reassigned down in that area. As I understand it, southern Maine has a higher vaccination rate for COVID-19 than the area up here, where the clinic was to take place, but they thought there'd be more population, so more people would go. So in any case, we are fortunate that we did have multiple locations here in town in Newport for those that wish to be vaccinated. Number 5, summer Husky ball football. Again this year, Coach Moore will hold his traditional summer football camp, which includes 4 days of instruction, games, championship rings, and medals for all. And so payment and forms are due to Coach Moore by June 18th, 2021. We have copies here at the office. And basically, there will be an explanation of what's gonna take place at the day, like just an introduction. They do dynamic stretches, they have skills of the day, demos and practices, a husky ball round number 1, stack and life skills, and then a husky ball round number 2 goes on for the week. And everything is taken care of by Woody Moore, who does a wonderful job with this. It is for boys and girls ages 4 to 13, Tuesday through Friday, July 20th through the 23rd, because we usually have the Egg Festival, but we won't be having it at that time this year. 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock a.m. at Manson Park. The cost is $100, with checks made out to Woody Moore. Number 6, MSAD 53 referendum and Town of Pittsfield special municipal election. These events will be held on Tuesday, June 8, 2021, from 1 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. at the Pittsfield Municipal Building in the council chambers. Absentee ballots have been available for both events. The SAD 53 referendum is for the 2021 through 2022 budget proposal for MSAD 53, and the election of a town councilor is for an at-large seat through 12/31/2021. One candidate is running for the position, being Michael Chinquette, former councilor. I would note on the MSAD 53 referendum that the projected increase to the town of Pittsfield in taxes is 4%, or $133,683 for the period of July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022. Detroit's increase is 11.97% and Barnum's is 6.89%. Now in 2 years, ours will be higher because we'll have a much higher valuation. It takes 2 years to get caught up here. But in the interim, the increase is lower. So Pittsfield is on the calendar year, so our assessment for 2021 will be half of this assessment and half of last year's assessment, so actually it will be less than 4%. Number 7, municipal building flooring project. Over the 3-day weekend, our cleaning company cleaned, stripped and waxed the floors, and they look better than the original, so they look really good. We arranged everything, moved everything out of the offices. The refurbishing was a multi-step process that took 3 days from beginning to end. So we're getting quotes for the landings and the entrances to the building now. Number 8, last item, community center project. Retired Colonel Michael Wiley is speaking to companies and other entities in town about the need for a community center. The community center concept that's being discussed is not just for a traditional community center, but it also includes a teen center, senior citizen center, arts, medical, theater for ballet, and many other events and activities. So it is multi-use in the broadest sense. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go on to new business, resolution 21-59.
Resolution 21-59, resolved that the town council approve the Pittsfield Waterworks terms and conditions effective August 1st, 2021.
Move we adopt resolution 21-59.
Second.
Another document we have been living and breathing. Annalise, do you have any other questions or things to tell us about this, or do you want councilors to ask questions first?
I guess the only comment I would make is I did submit it to PUC as a draft to get their input on it, so that we didn't, so that you guys had the final version they would accept. And they did make a few, things they wanted me to reorder. There were some similar things talking about meters that were in a couple different places, so they had me move them all together. They wanted the service line definition to be clearer. It doesn't change the overall meaning of what it was before, but it made it very clear who's responsible for what. They just had new language they wanted me to use. And then they wanted me to change the bulk and pull fill section to include actual numbers for what the cost would be for different volumes of water. They thought that the prior language was quite confusing. I guess I thought it was confusing myself. They provided me with that language that you'll notice in the document. So those are the latest changes since we last talked as a group. I think it's a decent document, and, you know, working with the staff to implement it will be the next challenge. So if we end up, you know, going forward with this, my next thing will be to formally upload it back into the PUC system, and then they would review it again as a whole. You know, but I would wait to have any other comments that anybody else would like me to do or change.
Any other comments or questions for Annalise regarding this document, counselors?
I had a couple of, just to clarify for myself, and also because I did notice the service pipe and service line language change, which I think made it much more clear, because we needed that. But I just wondered, these are things that I don't want you to have to go back and fix after we deal with stuff. So you've put quotation marks around words that you're defining, except in the service pipe and service line area, and I didn't know if those had to have quotations around them.
I mean, I certainly can do that because that seems like what we were doing. It's just when I made the change, I lost the quotation marks. But that's
No, that's okay.
It's really more just to emphasize them, so I can certainly do that.
Yeah. And then I had a question
It's consistent. Yeah.
in the paragraph right before section 4, credit and collection procedures. I know that later on this is clarified, and I just wondered if that's why the line was removed. You had said all bills shall be payable to the office of the utility or at any designated collection station, and that designated collection station was removed. And I wondered why that was removed, simply because we don't actually go to Pittsfield Waterworks office to pay that, we come here.
Right, so maybe the office of the utility is considered the town office. So maybe that's not clear the way it's written right now, because I would prefer, especially maybe into the future, that the money not be handed to the people that work at the utility, not because anybody's doing anything wrong. It's just in the future, if something's operated differently, I would prefer not to have that as a liability. I would prefer for checks to come here, but it is possible that people might collect things when they're going to do collections, so those people may be handling money. So the office of the utility, my understanding is the town office.
Okay.
But if you want that to be more direct, that's not a problem to me. Obviously.
I think putting in there, because I questioned it, if I questioned it, I'm sure other people will question it
Right,
as
so do you
well.
want me to put in parentheses town office, or?
That would be fantastic,
Yeah, 'cause
if
it's
we
easy.
could identify that.
Yeah, yeah.
I read through this like 5 times because I wanted to make sure with all of the
That's
crossings
truly
out and
amazing, I
stuff.
have to say.
You have to read it. I really wanted to understand what was happening. And I figured if I came up with a question, other people will too.
Yeah, no, that's really
So-
great, actually, because that's the thing, I get used to blinded by it.
In section 6B, so going from A to B, it's got the semicolon and must. But then at the end of section B, there's a period without an and continuing on for C, D, E, F, and G. Is there supposed to be an and after that, or is that a separate thing?
I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to have the and to be consistent again, but if you're
Okay.
prior comment, I'll add the and.
And then I had one more.
Are you an English teacher?
No, so I'm a state representative and I've been looking at bills nonstop.
Okay.
And that is some of the stuff that we keep getting corrected.
No,
when I
this is
look at it.
perfect. No, this is good. This is good. I want it to be right.
So no, not an English teacher. I've just been looking at a lot of legal
I gotcha.
stuff.
Good. Good. This is definitely helpful.
I was curious about the wording in section 10. I'm not clear on what it means when you're saying the returned fee for non-payment for a check who's been returned will be charged the greater of $5 per account to which the check is to be applied. I don't know what that means. Charge the greater of $5 is a little confusing.
Charge the greater. or the amount the financial institution charges the utility not to exceed 15 for each check returned. I think it's just, right, so it's a little wordy.
Yeah.
This actually came directly out of the PUC rules.
That would explain.
That would explain it.
But I can see if I can make that clearer. Yeah. Yeah.
I read that so many times, I'm like, I have no idea, but saying that it came right out of the rules,
It's wordy. It has too many words in there saying that don't need to be there, so I'll fix that.
I mean, if the fee is $5, that's great. If it's $5 to $15, that's fine too.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure exactly what it meant.
So just a question before you move on to your next item.
Yep.
The last time I received a check that was issued and it wasn't paid, it was like $40 that I got charged by the bank. So I don't know who set the actual amount here, but it seems like
The
it's
commission
not
set
in
it.
line with actual banking.
It's not in line, and Catherine and I spoke about that right at the beginning of this, because I slashed the number, I'm like, that isn't the number that we're allowed to charge.
Yeah.
So this is right out of the PUC
So
rules.
this is what they're saying you're allowed to charge?
Correct.
Even though it would charge the utility, or
Yeah.
the town is gonna pay more to the bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
a
we are.
fee.
I get it, but we're not allowed to charge more than they allow us to charge.
That makes no sense at all.
I agree.
I looked at that too, Heather, and went,
Bill next quarter.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable, it just said like, we would pass that charge, actual charge on to the customer.
Yeah, I understand and I agree with that,
Yeah.
but they have limits they require you to not charge over.
Okay.
so, can I go to my next section?
Yeah?
Okay. Section 33, where you talk about bulk water and swimming pool stuff. It says that the customer would request or apply. It says request in one area and then application in the second paragraph. What I'm not clear of is who do they apply to and who is approving or disapproving the application? So are they applying to the utility or are they applying to the town?
It'd be the utility. It says the utility may at its discretion, so it kind of implies the utility, but if you would like, I would make that clearer. I could say at the customer's request, I could put in there that they would apply to the utility.
So the utility is the town. It's
Right.
just where is the location for this, and we would have the forms here at the office.
Right.
Well, the utility is defined in the beginning as Pittsfield Waterworks, not the town.
Which is the town, Pittsfield Water Works is the town.
It's
But-
just,
but
it's
it's
not
not the
very
town.
clear.
It's terminology.
Yeah, it's, for somebody who doesn't know that, that's a little harder to, I want to make sure that it's clear for everyone. Because utility is defined as Pittsfield Waterworks and not Pittsfield Waterworks doing business under the town of Pittsfield. Okay.
I can put in some clarification that they would have to get that information from the town office.
That would be great. And that was my last question. Thank you.
Very thorough.
Any other counselors have questions or clarifications they would like made on this document? Anybody on Zoom have anything that they would like to ask about this document for discussion purposes? Not hearing any. Emily, do you have anything else you want to add to this before we vote on it?
No, what I'll do is I will update these comments and then provide an updated copy to Catherine and then upload it to the PUC site. I mean, these are pretty minor but important comments, so I think I could do it, follow that. If you all agree, that's what I was thinking I would do.
Yeah, I think there might have grammatical changes. It doesn't change the intent of the document.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna vote on resolution 21-59. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, that will pass, and we'll go on to resolution 21-60.
Resolution 21-60, resolved that the town council authorize the town manager to execute the applicant agreement to comply with 2021 Clean Water State Revolving Fund, the Clean CWSRF Clean Water State Revolving Fund requirements for Project Main Street and sewer improvements.
Move we adopt resolution 21-60.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Annalise, you wanna talk to us some more?
We lined these all up for her.
All right, so I know you guys are all working on the DOT project, and Catherine contacted me earlier this year and asked if I could try to get some funding for the sewer lines that may or may not have needs in that area. And one of the first things we did was we did some video work to try to figure out which lines were bad and talk to some people who were having issues. And I know there's been some discussion of those issues in prior meetings and that type of thing. So we actually did a little graphic here, which I will admit is not 100%, because we don't know some of these things you don't know until you're actually doing dye testing and talking to people that live there, and we haven't gone to that depth yet. We're just trying to give you an approximation of what's going on with the sewer. So there's a little section, I'll go over the graphic because I think that's the easy way to describe what the project would entail. So over on the right of the, here that shows the main street, there's a section that says line section of sewer main. So that's actually a PVC sewer, but it has a broken piece in it. And that area has caused some issues in the past, so that needs to be lined. So that's one piece of the project. Then the fairly minor piece of the project. And then down along the next section to your left as you travel down Main Street, the line there is also PVC, and we videoed that. The one, it's actually in the concrete road, and the manholes and the main line itself are in pretty decent shape, but the sewer services that tie into it for some of those businesses is not in good shape, because that's the area where some of the people have had issues with sewer services that are go underneath the sidewalk, so that's not good. And then there's another line that's I showed in a dashed yellow, and it says replace existing vitrified clay sewer main, that's on the shoulder across the road, and that is in between Nichols Street and Peltoma Avenue. And it appears that the way the sewer was designed in town and on Main Street was to avoid the concrete road, which I understand, but it's also now a little problematic because a lot of this stuff isn't on any maps anywhere. So we attempted to video that vitrified clay line. It's in such poor shape we really couldn't get the camera in there, and we've been told by people that it's in poor shape. It's just, I don't know exactly where it's located, but to the best of my knowledge, that's where it's located. But dye testing and stuff like that would need to be done during, if you do decide to go forward with it during a design, to make sure we know what we're going to do in the future. Sometimes it doesn't always matter where it is. You have to figure out where it needs to be. So that's really the key to a better design. So that's one piece of the project. And then if you go down to the left of the page, you'll see this other dashed line that goes behind a bunch of the homes between maybe just above Raymond Avenue and Franklin Street and probably Library Street. It goes all the way there. I don't really know where those first few houses get fed from. We would have to dye test and talk to people who are more knowledgeable that live in the area, because there are some people who do know more about the sewer, get a better map of where it is existing, decide whether we would put it back where it is. The problem is if you don't put it back where it is, then everybody's plumbing has to get turned, and that's a real big deal for some of those bigger homes. So it may be the most reasonable thing to do would be to put it back exactly where it is within some limits. I mean, you're not going to go underneath a swimming pool or a shed or something like that. But that's going to take some, figuring out with easements and different things like that. So we basically applied for the funds, not really knowing 100% what we were faced with when we first did the application. We didn't have the video work to tell us that the PVC line and the road was in good shape. so that that PVC line in front of those businesses with some of the bad services, that itself does not need to be replaced. So we did apply for the funds, and unfortunately Pittsfield didn't get grant in the Clean Water SRS application, and that's largely because of your large customer base, your sewer rates are fairly low, and when you do the math and you do the competitive, there's like a form on the Clean Water SRF application where you have to put your percent poverty and median household income and all these different factors, and you need a certain amount of points, and you just didn't rate high enough. And also you don't really have like a violation going on. So that is another fast factor. So you didn't get grant on it, but it is 1% loan funds. So that's basically what the loan is for. And the project, I mean, obviously would end up being what it would need to be once more work was done to figure out exactly where those sewer lines are and where they should go.
Catherine, we received approval to use some of the funds that we have in that sewer account for some of this kind of stuff, correct?
We can, yes.
So, how much do we have available to, obviously we don't want to use all of it because we want a rainy day fund, but how much are we allowed to use toward a project like this?
All right, we had a little bit over $800,000 in the account. And we needed to keep a little bit over 600,000. So you had 200,000 or 300,000 that you could utilize.
And the project is over 900,000.
Oh yes, this is, and we don't know the exact amount of what's involved here. This cross-country line down further is a problem area.
Right.
Definitely. The other work is pretty standard and should be able to be calculated out easily, but the cross-country line that runs behind the houses in Main Street, that's going to be more difficult to estimate out. So it will throw the figures, higher or lower.
After doing dye testing, we'd be able to, get into every cellar. We'd be able to figure out where everybody's sewer goes, and actually talking to people that live there, because they know, a lot of them know if it's in their backyard, they know that the sewer's there, and getting copies of easements. But that's not in the planning stage, that's more in a design stage, yeah.
We do have some history there, in which we have tried to fix different parts, and there, it's been interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely some issues there.
Yeah.
It's gonna keep getting at you until it's taken care of.
So far you've identified the issues, and tonight we're just voting on authorizing you to do the application.
Yes, because if we don't do the application by June 11th, then we'll be knocked off the list, and some of the many people on the backup list, usually we're on the backup list, or we're right above the line on the priority list. This time we're up a bit because we do have the Main Street project coming through. There's identified areas. This is part of a much larger project, or can be construed that way. So we did get more points than usual.
Okay. So we're at the point right now where Annalise, through her work, she's identified all the issues. We have an estimated cost of it. So now we're just gonna vote to authorize Catherine to execute the application agreement, to go ahead and put in for the application for this. And then we'll just wait and see what it comes back at. And then from there, we'll have to make decisions on financing the project.
Yes.
And where the money would come from. So this is the first step or second step. I guess first step was identifying things. Second step, approving the application, and then we'll figure out what the project will actually look like.
Yes.
And how to pay for it afterwards.
This keeps us in the running, and so it's worked out well, that we can concentrate in certain areas and don't have to do the whole line because some of it is in good shape. So what will happen, my understanding is that we can change the money amount down if we were able to, but we don't want to drop the project once we sign the paperwork because that is viewed as maybe not good faith. But there is work that needs to be done here, definitely.
What's gotta be done?
You've got work up in the business district where we need to do a relining. We've got some service line issues. We've got an area across from MCI that has been a problem. And then we've got the cross-country line further down. So there are some issues to address.
Well, it certainly makes sense to do it before they're fixing our main street.
If we don't do it, you're gonna be
We
an
won't be
awful lot
able
more
to do
down
it.
the road.
Yeah.
No
And
kidding.
you'll be forced to do it
There'll be a
at their cost.
There'll be a 5-year moratorium once, Maine DOT goes through, so it's like now or never. It should work out timing-wise very well.
It's gonna take a little while to do the diagnostic, you know, figuring out where everything is and where deal with easements, so, that's just one thing to point out, because this is gonna have to be done before they do the road.
Yeah.
So is this one of the projects that we have engineering money set aside to do, that we had talked about before? To be able to have them go ahead and start working on the engineering part of things?
This is a water sewer project, so it can't come out of the general engineering.
Okay, so that's separate, it has to come out of water.
So it would
sewer
have to
money.
come out of the water sewer budget.
Okay. And then was this taken into account when we did our sewer rates and the changes in that? Did we know about this at that time? When you talked about the infrastructure improvements that needed to be made, did we already know about this?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think it was in the sewer budget that was approved for this year.
Okay.
This came, I think, after that, to my attention.
Okay, but this will be done next year though, right?
Right, and you wouldn't have to make your first payment on this, until like a year after completion. So it's not like a big thing immediately. Yeah.
It's a necessary, at least some of the work, which will get defined, is necessary before Maine DOT goes through, because this is the long-awaited project. And so the timing on this actually is very good.
And then the part that's cross-country is necessary because it's a big
Separate,
issue
yeah.
there. And I don't know how happy people would be to not have that addressed.
Any other questions, counselors? Okay, not hearing any. All those in favor of resolution 21-60, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, that will pass. Resolution 21-61.
Resolution 21-61, resolve that the town council sign a warrant and notice of election to call the MSAD 53 budget validation referendum to be voted on June 8, 2021.
Move we adopt resolution 21-61.
Second.
Any discussion, counselors? Pretty straightforward housekeeping things.
Catherine, you said the election wasn't starting until 1 o'clock?
Yes, 1 o'clock.
Are people able to come in earlier and do early voting upstairs, like absentee ballot type voting?
We've been doing absentee ballots, yes.
Okay, but so like if somebody came in at 8 o'clock, they could do that upstairs?
I will check on that, but I believe they can. It just depends on what the regulations are for, actually, I think that they can, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll double check that, but I believe they can.
So on this here, it says polls open at 8 AM and close at 8 PM. For the school.
All right, so the school agreed on the hours.
I'm just looking at the last page of the
Yeah.
copy of the warrant election.
It might be that one page needs to be changed on
Is
that.
that just
Polls must be
standard?
open at
Yeah.
8 AM. Closed at last sheet.
Of course, I guess if you can cast your absentee ballot at 8 AM, then that counts as a poll being open.
I'll have the town clerk check on that.
So is it actually like 1 PM to 8 AM, 8 PM?
Yes, that would be correct. Yeah, I'll have the town clerk check on that.
And that's for the validation of this budget as well as the council seat.
Correct, yes.
Any other questions, counselors? All those in favor of resolution 21-61, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, that will pass. items. Do you have any this evening?
We do not.
And report, audience. Colonel Wiley, do you have anything to report to us this evening?
Well, I've got three major things that I'm working on, and I'll soon have a report, maybe the next meeting or two. And those three things are a community center. There is some interest within the corporations that are here, Puritan and Chinbro, and the hospital. So I'll get to where I can define that better, but I wanted to get kind of a groundswell first, and activities that would go on there range from political studies through arts and crafts, physical training, and health and welfare, and performing arts. I went to the ballet performance at MCI. They have a wonderful program, but they do not have a wonderful facility. So that would be part of the community center if we get one. And I won't go into detail, but as a long-time connoisseur of ballet, it was wonderful to see in their outdoor setting, but you just, there's a great deal you don't see without a more sophisticated theater. The other two things, the Navy did send out their commander to visit MCI for the ROTC to come in. Everything looks good on that. They were very impressed with the facilities that are available. So I'm looking to see that begin next fall with myself in command of it. And I say myself in command. I'll keep it in the outset, get it going, and I can find some younger former Marines, former Navy that will gravitate here. I already know some of the people that would, and I've talked to them about it. The Memorial Day ceremony went surprisingly well. We didn't have a parade, but it was interesting. We got some veterans that showed up, and then some younger people, and I gave my little speech, and Andy Gibson gave the prayer, and there was a little extra time before it was time to run all the flags up at 12, and we got a really interesting exchange between the veterans and the younger people that were there. So I'm going to start working on next year's parade already, although I'd like to see a way to keep having that kind of interaction go. Well, maybe the answer is ROTC. So that's everything I have at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Council reports. Jason.
I'm all set.
Tim.
That's kind of, thank you, Annalise, for coming in and giving us all that update. Thank you, Colonel, for coming in and giving us an update as well. You asked Amanda if she was an English teacher. No, but they've been known to use some very colorful English when you talk to her. But no, it was a lot of work, and again, I know that it's like inside baseball. We should have done this, we should have done that. Well, unfortunately, it is what it is, and I'm glad that those things are going to be addressed at the sewer level further down on Main Street, down by where the old South Main Street was. Because if you don't, that's going to, down the road, if we don't address that, that's going to cost a lot more money, and it's going to be, Exeter headache number 35 for whoever's here when it happens, because there's no good way to address that unless those lines are changed. So, and I'm glad that the Memorial Day celebration went off without a hitch, and I'm glad that they're going to start having the concert series in Hong Kong. People are dying to get out. I mean, people have been buttoned up for a year and a half. You could just tell just in the traffic patterns around the area that people just can't wait to get out. And so I think that'll be very successful. And I want to thank the town employees and Catherine for all the hard work. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Tim. Amanda?
Thank you. I'd like to start off by thanking Colonel Wiley for his incredibly thoughtful and moving ceremony that was honoring our service members who died serving our country. I was able to attend. It was a little misty, but it was a very good ceremony. It was very nice to see the flags all go up at once at noon. I know we could only really see 2 of them from the spot we were at, but that was very good. I want to thank our Boy Scout troops who came as well to honor our servicemen who fell, servicemen and women who fell. So very moving ceremony, and thank you again, Colonel, for everything you do for those ceremonies for us in our area. Also, I'd like to thank Annalise for being here today and being very thoughtful through all of this process. I know that it's been a long one for us that started, back last year with trying to get these started, and then, of course, COVID put everything behind as it did with everything in the world, really. Also, thank you to everyone who's attended. I know that we've lost everybody on Zoom, but I appreciate them coming, even if it wasn't for the whole meeting. And thank you, Colonel Wiley, for being here in person. We appreciate that. I'm very excited about the concert series starting. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for that announcement, and I'm very excited that that's coming, and I can't wait to see those concerts happening again and hear them from my deck as I can if it's a little drizzly and I don't want to go out. Catherine, it was brought to my attention that at least for one of the open positions that we have for the town, I think it was the Public Works one, that when you click on the links, it becomes this endless loop of links trying to find the application process. And then when you finally find the application process, it's a paper application that has to be printed and brought in or mailed. And I was wondering if there's any way that that process could be updated so that we can get more people applying. I have somebody who wants to apply for that. They reached out to me and said that that was a really hard process to go through because they found it on the Municipal Association's website, and then it told them to come here, which told you to go there, which told you to come here, and then when they finally found where the application was, it was a general paper application that you had to print and bring in. So if there's anything we can do to make that process easier so we actually get a good number of applicants, I'd love to.
So I'll have to check that out tonight because people have been clicking on here, and printing out the application and bringing it in. We did get the software so that we can do the online applications, and I thought she had done that for some of them.
If that is the case, it's not happened for this one, or there's an error that's happening because they were being bounced back and forth between the two websites.
I'll click on it tonight and see what's going on. Yeah, thank you. We'll see
No, not a problem.
We'll see where I go.
I know we've been wanting to fill those positions, so I wanted to bring that to your attention. And thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Pete?
I have no report this evening.
Okay, Brent?
I have no report.
All right. I just have a few things. Thanks to Colonel Wiley for the Memorial Day ceremony. It's nice to have somebody dedicated in town to making sure that that's done and that everyone is honored as appropriate. So thank you to everybody that participated in that as well. Annalise, always good to see you, always informative, and we might be done with water sewer stuff for a little while until this next grant application comes through, but thank you for your perseverance and going through the process. I know it's your job and it's what you do, but you make it easy for us to understand what's happening, so we all appreciate that for sure. And Catherine too, I know it's been a lot of work for you upstairs as well as the staff in sorting this all out and dealing with all the questions about it too. So thank you for that work as well.
Well, it's worked out well that we're doing all of the items all at once. I think it saves time and energies on everybody's part.
Rather than sprinkling them out and dealing with it all on a cover basis.
Yeah, it was a lot. We definitely thank Annalise. She's always available for our questions.
I did have a question, roadside mowing, that's contracted out, or are we doing that in-house this year?
We do that in-house.
Okay, is that gonna be starting soon, or?
Yes, once they get through the other projects that they have listed.
Okay.
Yes.
And the other question I had was, you had mentioned before when we were talking about public works and streets about the Snake Root Road and how there was some issues with the tarmac that was put down there, and that we were gonna be investigating that to some extent. And I think Steve was in the midst of doing that when he left. So do we have any follow-up on that as far as the status of that?
He did some test results, so I'll need to get a copy of that from the Public Works garage. And then I think that we need to have an engineer look at this just to make sure. I mean, I can go out and look at it, and it is an area of Snake Root Road that needs to be repaired, and we save the money out of the capital improvement plan. But the extent of the length of the area is a question in my mind, you know, versus do we fix the exact area or do we fix further on both sides? So that was something Steve was in the midst of getting taken care of, and so yes, it's on our list.
Okay, and we had withheld some of the
We
payment
did,
for the job
yes.
because we knew that was gonna be an issue.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So that will be in process. I had a resident ask me about that, so now everybody knows. And that is all I have for this evening, so I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
You have the paperwork? I don't know. I was gonna go check. I better check. I was just teasing. Having fun at your expense, it's not right.
Whatever, I don't care.
And the woman.
I'm
What's his name?
What's
What's his name? What's his name? He used to do the Saturday Night Live. That's not
I
right.
don't know, I just wanna make sure everybody does it. Everybody scatters and then it's like, oh, there we go.
You,